QuickBooks Pro Plus Desktop 2022 Help and Support Options. Get ready because we bookkeeping pros are plussing up the hilltop with QuickBooks Pro Plus Desktop. Here we are in our free QuickBooks sample file, sample rock castle construction, going through the setup process, view dropdown, open windows list on the left-hand side, company dropdown, home page in the middle, maximizing the home page to the gray area. We're not going to be looking at the reports at this point because we're focused in on the help and support options, many of which can be found in the help drop down. But before we start going through the items in the help drop down, it would be useful to know what kind of help we are looking for, categorizing the help options, and then that will help us to kind of think about which options would be most suitable for us. I would first think about the two primary options, 1 and 2, of why we would need support. 1 being technical support and 2 being accounting type of support. If we need 1 technical support for things like setting up the software, uploading the software if there's any issues with that, if we need support for putting the software properly in a different kind of configuration than simply on our desktop, then we might then be working with Intuit, the owner of QuickBooks, directly, having them help us out with those types of technical issues, and or we may need help from other technical professionals that would help us to get the software properly input. In other words, the normal kind of setup process, if you go through a basic setup process, you could go to Intuit most likely. If you have any problems with it, that would probably be the best place to go to. But if you have specialized needs, such as setting it up on, say, like a business server or something like that, then you might also need to be talking to a QuickBooks as professional as well as a computer professional that knows your software and your particular computer needs to get the technical computer issues uploaded and completed. On the other hand, if you have questions about bookkeeping type of needs, such as setting up like the chart of accounts once the software is up and loaded, setting up items, thinking about how to record certain transactions, bank reconciliations, and so on, those kind of things, you could also go to Intuit, owner of QuickBooks Resources and Support. But I would think you're going to get better support in that case by looking at bookkeeping professionals, some of which might be like QuickBooks certified or work a lot with the QuickBooks bookkeeping software. You also want to be considering, when you're thinking about bookkeeping needs, entering transactions ideas, who you're dealing with your year-end accounting, which could include your tax preparation, because they're going to be needing your information for that year-end kind of calculations to help with your tax preparation. And they may or may not be bookkeeping experts over there as well. And so you might want to talk to them if possible to get any kind of bookkeeping needs to make the year-end kind of transactions as streamlined as possible as you do your tax returns and so on at the end of the year. So you got that kind of interplay between, do you need a bookkeeper that possibly isn't doing your taxes to answer kinds of questions, or do you also want to be taking into consideration your tax preparer and accountant at the end of the year to make sure that you have everything lined up to make that process as streamlined as possible. Okay, so keeping that in mind, first let's take a look at the purchase of the QuickBooks and the options that they're giving us when you purchase QuickBooks. For that, I'm on the Intuit webpage, Intuit, the owner of QuickBooks. We're looking at the QuickBooks Pro Plus or Pro Plus with the payroll. And if you scroll down, they say that they have ultimate customer support here. So going into the ultimate customer support, it says get help when you need it. Get unlimited support plus access to QuickBooks experts. Press F1 to access Smart Help and get a chat call back from a live expert. So you get that basically call back. They're saying they have the support there. But again, if you're talking about bookkeeping support for your personal bookkeeping needs, then I would think you might want to be talking to someone that's got specific information about your particular needs for your particular bookkeeping, possibly including then your year-end tax preparer technical needs. You might then be more likely to go to Intuit, and that would be a good place to go. Okay, so then we got the drop down up top. You could select F1, as they said. That's your chat. You can also find this information in the bookkeeping or in the help drop down. So you can go to contact us from here, and it's going to give you your chat item. So that's one way that you could facilitate communication with Intuit or the owners of QuickBooks. Let's see what else we got under the drop down. So we got the QuickBooks Desktop Help option. This is probably the first place you would go if you basically were entering transactions, for example, into the system and you're like, I need help setting up some particular item, say it was like payroll or something like that. Then it's going to go through that standard process of finding the items, and then you can go on and drill down from there, going through their search engine results, and hopefully get the feedback you're looking for to complete the particular transaction that you need to complete. So that's probably the first place that you might go, is try to do a search option. Closing that out, if we go to the help option, we also have that contact. That's the same as hitting the F1. So we got a similar screen for both of these. We could contact then down below, and then we could go there. Most people probably use this more than F1, because hopefully you're not using F1 all the time and you need contact all the time, or maybe you could, but I don't typically. And then we're going to go help drop down, new features. Now this will give you some information on the new features. I won't go into these now. There's not a whole lot of new stuff in the current out of 2022. One of the main things they did was increase, hopefully making it faster. We talked about in the past, however, so I won't go into that there. Find a local QuickBooks desktop expert. So this could be useful if you're looking for someone for bookkeeping needs. So now I would say that this falls into the category, not so much of the technical needs to set up the QuickBooks if you're having any problems getting the actual software on there, if there's any problems with it working properly, but rather with the bookkeeping needs. Then you might say, I would like someone that knows specifically QuickBooks Desktop to help me with my bookkeeping needs, remembering that there's accountants out there, and then there's bookkeepers then that there's specialized bookkeepers that might be specialized in a particular type of software. Even using QuickBooks, the online version substantially different than the desktop version. So this could help you to narrow your needs to look for a desktop version specific bookkeeper to help you out with the particular type of bookkeeping system that you have, possibly finding someone that has a bit higher credentials in that at least they have awareness of bookkeeping. They're credentialed in some way or are found or on the list of Intuit, the owner of QuickBooks, list of bookkeeping professionals. As you look at something like this, however, you also want to keep in mind how that bookkeeper might fit in to your tax preparation or your accountant at the end of the year. Your tax preparer at the end of the year may be a CPA or maybe not, maybe an accountant, maybe not. And your question is, how can I get my bookkeeping needs to line up to make sure that I'm in conformity to make my year-end calculations and so on as easy as possible? So that might be the same person. You might go to your tax preparer or accountant or CPA first, and or you might pick up the bookkeeper that helps you out with your bookkeeping and then associate them, have them communicating with your accountant and CPA to make sure that everything is going as streamlined as possible. Closing that out, help drop down. Let's see what else we have here. You can send feedback online. You can send feedback for bugs and so on that might be more helpful to QuickBooks than yourself, possibly for that. QuickBooks Tool Hub, fixed setup. So this will take you to an item that might help you with the technical problems within QuickBooks. And so I won't go into that in detail, but if you're having issues with the way the QuickBooks is functioning, then you could go here. It says fix common problems and errors with the QuickBooks Desktop Tool Hub. So that's going to be a place you can go. If those types of errors are coming up, that would be, to me, a time when you might want to contact Intuit. That would be a technical type of issue. And then they might advise you to use the Tool Hub to help you fix any kind of common type of problems. And internet connection setup. So if you wanted to set up or change your internet connection, which is something also on the technical side of things, which may require you then to contact Intuit if you have an issue with that, and or if you have more complex kind of structures in terms of how you're inputting the software on your system, possibly on servers, and having different people accessing it, then you might need a computer expert as well to be working with Intuit to make sure that the configuration is properly done for your particular needs. If you have a very basic setup, QuickBooks just on the desktop, then it should be fairly straightforward. And if you have any problems with it, you can contact Intuit, and they should be able to fix that kind of problem. New business checklist. These are actual checklists, which are not technical kind of checklists, but they give you a good lineup of what you should do when you start a new business. So they're good advice checklists for general kind of advice for business advice. So they're worth looking into. And then we're going to say we've got the new business checklist. Then we got the year-end guide, same kind of thing. So at the end of the year, that's when you got the most bookkeeping kind of needs. you might look at their year-end guide and just give a checklist and say, am I doing these kind of things? Am I ready for the year-end stuff? Closing that out. Reports drop down. Manage my QuickBooks account. So you can go here to kind of change or manage your QuickBooks setup accounts. Add QuickBooks services. So if you go there and say you didn't buy the payroll option, for example, then, well, you could add the payroll, but here they got the get paid faster. So this is take credit cards and bank transfers. Oh, payroll's already on this particular item. So if payroll wasn't activated, they might have payroll here as well. And then you can make recording checks simpler, use checks designed. So you got checking information. These are add-on type of features. They're typically going to cost more. You can get a loan apparently. So those are going to be items that you could look into if you want. Most of the time, if you don't have payroll, that's going to be one of the big items. And this get paid faster, take credit cards is a big issue depending on the type of industry that you're going to be in, as well as the checks. And then if you want financing, that's kind of a different service than bookkeeping needs, but they have that too. And those are add-ons. Closing that out. What else do we have in the help drop-down? We've got the add-on guide, manage my QuickBooks account, add QuickBooks services app. So if you want to have separate apps that are basically going to be connected to the QuickBooks, I'm not going to be focusing in on those types of applications in this course. Generally, we might look into some of the more common apps in the future, but you can go here if you want to look into those items. Help drop-down. Again, we've got the Update QuickBooks Desktop. So if you want to go through the update process, if you have everything set up properly, then it should update basically as you go, meaning there might be still updates, the big updates per year, but as the year goes by, they still update each version. So if you have, in other words, 2022 version, then you still need access to the internet because you need to update it from time to time, which should be kind of automatic if you've chosen that option to be automatic. And you're going to need to log in online from time to time to get into the system now that it's on a license-based system. If you have 2022 and above, 2021 and below, possibly not. Then we're going to go to the help drop-down, manage my license, so you can buy additional user license, sync, change my license number, switch to Pro Desktop, and so on. Secure password reset, resetting your password. Reset Intuit ID settings, so you can reset your Intuit being the owner of QuickBooks settings. QuickBooks Desktop privacy statement. So this is the statement basically saying that QuickBooks, are you given the right for QuickBooks to kind of track some of your information that you're doing, which supposedly they're going to be using only for their own purposes in order to improve the software and not to spy on you or sell your information or anything that we basically sell to every company that we work with doing this kind of software stuff. So about automatic updates, so you can have information about the automatic updates, QuickBooks Desktop usage, and analytics study. And then we've got the QuickBooks Desktop Pro Plus, which will give you kind of information about the software that you have. I think it gives you the license number and the product number there. So those are your general options. Can be kind of overwhelming. You do have a lot of options, but if you break the options down into one, is it a technical need? Is it something I should contact Intuit with? And two, is it a bookkeeping need? If it's a bookkeeping need, should I go with Intuit? Should I find a bookkeeping professional that is advised by Intuit? And or do I need to bring in my accountant, my tax preparer, and have them answer the question and or work with the person who is helping me to answer the question so that we streamline the accounting process?